A proud supporter of this program, Riverbend Food Bank's vision is a hunger-free Iowa and Illinois.
Whelan Presley Funeral Home and Crematory has been serving Quad City families since 1889. Whelan Presley Funeral Homes are located in Rock Island, Milan, and Reynolds and are proud supporters of WQPT.
The Count and why it's so important, and breathing new life into the Bix Museum in the cities. By this time next month, one of the few mandated events in the American Constitution will be executed, and it's no small feat. Every 10 years since 1790, the American government is trying to determine just how many people live within its borders. But with well over 300 million Americans, the latest census count may be among the most difficult, but it may also be among the most important. And joining us right now is the Executive Director of the Bi-State Planning Commission, Denise Bulat, and the Director of the Doris and Victor Day Foundation, Dave Geenan. I know I threw planning in there, and I should not have, because you changed that years ago. Let's talk about the census, though, and start on a government side before we go through a philanthropic side. This is such a critically important thing, but so many people are going, census? Oh, really? We have to do that?
Yes, it is very important. Transportation infrastructure and all kinds of infrastructure, block grants that fund sewer and water are all based on population, so they're based on the census. And how many dollars each of our states are allocated for federal highway or federal transit funds, all based again on population numbers. So getting good population numbers means we get our tax dollars back. Extremely important for all of our infrastructure and public infrastructure.
But Dave, as you well know, I mean, even though people are doing selfies and are people on social media all over the place, they're also very protective of their private information. Social media notwithstanding. Yeah. So, I mean, is that one of the biggest hurdles that you have to do, is that people are going to be asked questions and they think that you're going to be asking questions that you have no reason to know?
Right. So, you know, what we know from the census is that 9 questions, right, Denise? Mm-hmm. And it's nothing of personal data. It's why don't you help me out with this one?
It's your name. You have to give your name. You give how many people are living with you. You give if you
as of April 1st.
Correct. If you are in a home that you own or have mortgaged or are renting, and then you fill out the similar and your race and your ethnicity. You even mention if you're German or Polish or whatever it might be. And those are the types of questions you're asked, and then you answer them for every person who's actually living in your home, whether they're a relative or not. They don't have to be a relative, and you fill that information out. So you fill out 7 questions for all the additional people that live in your home. The census should only take 10 minutes to do. It's a short form.
It's a snapshot of an instant, April 1st,
Correct.
In our nation. And I was very careful in how I wrote the introduction. It is a count of the number of people living in the United States, not the number of citizens, and that's a real important differentiation.
That's correct. There is no question on the census as to whether or not you're a citizen. That is not part of the census, hasn't been part of the census since 1950.
And we did have in this current administration wanting to put that citizenship question on. It was challenged in the courts. And coming back to your question about data and privacy and issues of that, the damage has been done for people in our community not trusting, is the citizenship question on or is it not? So there's a lot more of educating we're doing within the community that no, the citizenship question is not on there. There are provisions within the law that states what the Census Bureau can share with other departments within the United States. But we do know that kind of is another hurdle we have ahead of us.
Yeah, the Census Bureau is trying to make it very clear that this information isn't shared, let's say with your landlord or with any other group other than some interagency as far as the government is concerned. But you think that the people who don't want to give information or don't trust the government are crotchety old people like me, but you're saying that we're seeing more younger and younger people who aren't quite sure about how they feel about the census.
Right, so I got a call this morning from Rock Island High School and one of their civics class teachers asking me to come to her class to help educate her students on the census. They're talking about it right now. It's perfect timing to talk about it in the curriculum as we're coming close. And her comment to me was striking, saying that her students are trying to boycott the census in terms of not trusting that they want the government to have any of their information. And I think that's where a lot of the educating comes to the table, right? The census it's been called the largest peacekeeping mobilization we take as a nation. When it's not accurately counted, when we don't accurately count who we are as America, it muffles the voices of a lot of people in our community.
Well, there's always been a discussion of whether or not the census is being done in the right way. I apologize. I go back almost 20 years to an old West Wing episode where they discussed the census and why do we even have to do it anymore? Can't we just calculate it and guesstimate because we have computers that know these things far better than I do?
Yeah.
But it is mandated in the Constitution.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's estimated that for every undercounted child or person, it ranges between $1,500 and $1,700 per year, so for 10 years for someone who has not been counted. That's how much money we won't get back as a community, we won't get back in our states, and it will lead to underrepresentation in the government. Mm-hmm. So for those who argue that they don't trust government, well, they won't even have a voice in government because they'll lose representatives at our nation's capital.
And yeah, it is mandated in the Constitution that we are mandated to do this, but it also is central to our democracy. I can't think of any better way to show who we are as a community, who we are as America, who we are as the Quad Cities, if we have a fair and accurate picture of who lives here.
Well, we're talking about government disbursement of funds or services. The Doris and Victor Day Foundation, why would you get involved in this?
Right. So nonprofits, foundations, community leaders, they all rely on accurate data to make good decisions about our schools, about our seniors, our veterans, and other community needs. A lot of our funding goes to a lot of the community organizations that have funds that are derived from census data. There are 316 federal funds that come through census-derived data. Just in 2017, and this is going on based on 2010 census data, $1.5 trillion came through to businesses, to nonprofits, to schools. So it definitely impacts us as a foundation, as a grant-making foundation. Are we going to fund free dental care for kids? Or if we fairly and accurately count and get our piece of the pie, then funding can be dispersed in other areas for community good.
Well, Denise, let's talk about that 2010 count, because lessons are learned from that, of course, for 2020, and whatever happens in 2020 we'll learn for 2030, of course. But one of the statistics that was a little bit haunting about the 2010 census was the fact that they believe that as many as 1 million children weren't counted in 2010. I mean, that's just hard to believe.
Yeah, people don't answer the census for the non-adults in their household, or they're not counted at all. They might be, families sometimes move around a lot, and when they move around a lot, they're not captured on that day in that place. They might be renters, or they might be homeless. So the children are the most vulnerable in many programs. In fact, they're the higher degree. I mentioned $1,700 a child per year. That's how much we lose for the free and reduced lunch programs and the other programs that help our children. So it's very, very important to count all the people. Anyone from 0 on up gets counted in the census.
And what we've heard from the Census Bureau is that we've been making progress on counting adults. The numbers have been going up. Well, for kids, it's been going down over the years. 4.6% of an undercount of kids compared from 2000 to 2010. And so it's very much of an area of concern that kids need to be counted.
So let's talk about the process, Denise. I mean, it's coming up, I think it's March 12th or March 14th?
On March 12th, they'll start sending out information and forms to every resident.
Some 144 million households, I believe, are expected to receive this.
Right, and what it will be is a letter of invitation to fill out the census. And then it will give you a unique identifier, and you can go online and answer the census. But there's a problem.
But that's a first time. That's never been done before.
It's the first time ever online. And so the problem might be that, again, if you go to folks who may not be able to afford having a laptop or an iPad or have internet, if they want to fill it out online, they need to go to other places to do that. And so many community organizations organizations are standing up to make those places available and safe for people to go online and fill out the census. If they don't want to fill it out online, they can actually call and ask to fill it out over the telephone, and if they wait,
the second.
That's the second
Yeah.
one, and then they're going to get 2 postcards of reminder, and if they haven't done it by then, the end of March and April 1st, they'll actually be getting a letter with an attached census in the mail, and then they would be able to fill it out by hard copy.
Now, if all of that hasn't occurred, Dave, then people could come knocking on your door. And I don't mean in a mean way. And this is, I think, one of the areas that people might have the most concerns, is this is when you have to do the face-to-face, and are you going to ask appropriate questions? So what should people be looking for? First off, it's so easy to do it ahead of time without somebody knocking on your door.
Right. If you don't want the government knocking on your door, fill out the census.
That's one way to look at it.
That's one way to look
Yes.
at it. They will have hired enumerators, and that's one of the programs that we're working in partnership with Bi-State of providing the information of this is what a census worker looks like when they come knocking on your door and to take the count. We already know that there are mailings going out that are making them depict that as the census, official census paperwork, and it's not. There are instances, I don't know if in our community, but in communities, other communities across the nation, that are having people walking through the neighborhoods acting as census officials.
So what would you ask for if somebody knocks on the door? I mean, do you obviously have some kind of authorization or some kind of I don't want to say a badge, but I mean, there's
Right.
some
So
proof.
we've been told they'll have government-issued iPads. They'll have their own uniform that they're wearing. And I'm sure they'll have their ID badge hanging around their neck.
Yes, they are supposed to have a census badge, and their government-issued computer will actually have a census information taped to it or ingrained in it, so that you'll know that they are an official worker.
But Denise, you know that there's going to be hoaxes. You know that
Yes.
there's going to be people who are trying to just muddy up the system for kicks, if anything else, maybe something more sinister. There's certain information you are not going to be seen collected, and one is don't give out any of your bank information.
absolutely
Don't give out
not.
your social security number.
No.
Just those basic 7 questions. Don't give out what?
None of really, just your name, your address, your phone number in case a part of the census wasn't filled out clearly. They want to contact you back. Your race, your ethnicity, and how many people live with you, and then the same information for them. That's really all that's being counted. This is what's called the short form, and that's really all that is part of the short form. Also, what type of a household you live in. Do you live in an apartment, a mobile home, a house? Do you pay mortgage or not? Do you rent? That's the kind of information.
Well, and Dave, the other thing is that, I mean, I could see somebody who's trying to play tricks on you then getting more aggressive, saying, no, I need this, no, I need this. Tell me about that aspect. Is that if a census worker comes up to your door and you say, no, I don't want to participate, and obviously that person, if they're legitimate, is not going to become more aggressive or be pressuring you.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so I think that's the big thing, just going back to, they are trained. If they're wearing the proper identification and they have the iPads, they know how to deal with folks who are saying decline to operate on to give their information on the census. And I'm not sure what kind of training they have, but obviously if someone's being aggressive at your door, perhaps maybe they're not working.
And that's yeah.
And if you keep that information that you receive in those postcards and those letters, if you ever have a question, you can call the census, and they will be responsive. There have been questions even during the early part of what we call addressing, to make sure we have all the list of residences that we want to send census information to. And we've even received some questions which we forwarded to the Census Bureau, and they were very responsive and answered those questions.
Denise Bulat from the Bi-State Regional Commission, Dave Geenan from the Victor and Doris Day Foundation. We appreciate you being here. Once again, if you have any information, it's just simply census.gov, is it not?
That's correct.
Yeah, so I mean, just get yourself a little bit of knowledge and you'll go a long way
Yes.
just knowing a little bit. Thank you
Yes.
so much for joining us. We do appreciate it. Well, welcome to March, and it's almost spring. Laura Adams has been waiting all winter long to tell you what's on our calendar for this week if you head out and about.
This is Out and About from March 2nd through 8th. It's time for the annual Spring Antique Spectacular Vintage Market, March 6th through 8th at the QCCA Expo Center. Or join the Earth Hour at Western Illinois University Quad Cities, March 4th for the importance of the Rock Island County Forest Preserve, featuring speaker Kai Swanson. The McKinley Elementary School hosts a trivia night at the Rock Event Center, March 6th at 6, and the German American Heritage Center opens a new exhibit, Power Frauen, German Women Who Dared to Dream, through June 14th. Blippi Live is coming to the Adler Theater on March 3rd, or enjoy a concert and conversation with Peter Buffett at Centennial Hall March 5th at 5. It's time to celebrate at the Bix Birthday Bash at Columbus Hall, music by Josh Duffy and his band, while Kamasi Washington performs at the Rust Belt March 3rd at 8. Reggie Harris presents a free concert at the Butterworth Center March 6th at 7 and appears at the Moline Public Library earlier in the day. Live at 5 at River Music Experience features the Monica Austin Band March 4th, or catch Viva La Diva's drag show at the Circa 21 Speakeasy March 6th, while next door on the Circa main stage, the musical Kinky Boots. Plus, the Quad City Symphony Orchestra present Masterworks 5 featuring Verdi's Requiem, a deeply religious work with full chorus and soloists March 7th and 8th. For more information, visit wqpt.org.
Thank you, Laura. Jason Carl is the proud frontman of the group Jason Carl and the Whole Damn Band, but we caught up with him as he played some original work on the stage of Moline's Black Box Theater. So here's Jason Carl with You're You.
She got her position by working certain angles, and you let that knowledge strangle up your mind. Well, she's dancing up the ladder and living like a queen. You got that image stuck inside your head, but you're you, not them. That's the beauty of it all. You don't have to give a damn what they think, 'cause you're you, not them. That's the beauty of it all. You don't have to give a damn what they think. They all think you're going to hell, but you don't really care. You might as well go out with a bang. And they all say you're crazy, but you don't seem to mind. Crazy is thinking that you're sane. And you're you, not them. And that's the beauty of it all. You don't have to give a damn what they think. No, 'cause you're you, not them. And that's the beauty of it all. You don't have to give a damn what they think. I try to live my life the best way I can. Don't worry about tomorrow when it's here. I'm trying to improve every way I can, but I'm not dying to live my life in fear. No, Johnny, he tried to walk the line, and Mama, she tried to quit, while you're trying to squeeze the most out of life. 'Cause you're you, not them. That's the beauty of it all. You don't have to give a damn what they think. Well, you're you, not them. And that's the beauty of it all. You don't have to give a damn what they think. No, 'cause you're you, not them. And that's the beauty of it all. You don't have to give a damn what they think.
Jason Carl, You're You. Jason and the band is set to play next month at the Gypsy Highway in Davenport. There's been a special place for Bix Beiderbecke downtown ever since the River Music Experience opened its doors in Davenport, but an actual museum honoring his life and music wasn't really officially open until about 2 years ago, and now it has its first museum director. Nathaniel Kraft took over the job just a few weeks ago. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Well, I mean, you know about Bix, and this museum is relatively new. It just seems to go hand in glove that this is what the Quad Cities should have. What are you most proud of about the Bix Museum?
It's really unique. There's a lot of stuff, and I don't think it's just about Bix. It's about the Quad Cities, their music history, it's very rich, and just the 20s in general. And so people who may not know who Bix is, they'll find something they really like there. It's a lot of stuff. It's just very unique.
We were talking just a few moments ago is that, like so many local resources, is that people locally take it for granted, but you have a guest book where people sign in and say where they're from. Has it amazed you who's showing up at the Bix Museum so far?
Yeah, I mean, since I've started, the farthest way has been California, but looking farther back last year, we had people from Italy, China. It's just a lot of international people, and even our website, 10 to 15% of our interaction is foreign internationals looking to find information on Bix.
What's the big thing about the Bix Museum? I mean, people love the piano, of course. I mean, but what is it that's really the key, the jewel that you have?
Probably the piano is the big thing. I personally like the display of the mannequin of Bix playing his cornet on the stage. And there's a lot of really cool stuff. It's just there's a bit too much for me to say there's one thing that's good.
Yeah, it's really unfair. But it's static displays, which so many museums are, but so many museums are becoming much more than that. Is that one of your biggest focuses right now, is how to take Bix out of the museum?
Yeah, our archive is getting digitized this year. It's at the Davenport Library in their special collections area. And when that's done, we're hoping to make a few temporary exhibits that we can probably place in the library, outside on the first floor of the RME, maybe other places if we do partnerships with other museums that may be interested in doing a Bix display. And we're hoping to bring him out to the community, and hopefully some people will come and see the museum as well.
Because let's be honest, I mean, Bix is honored in the Quad Cities for a number of different ways. Of course, the Jazz Festival being the number one way. Is this more to augment what's already going on, or do you hope that the museum also kind of blazes its own trail?
In some ways, yeah. We want to be involved in the Bix Fest, the street fair with the race, alternating currents. We want to bring in bands or even promote bands that are here that play jazz. We want more jazz in the community. But we also want to start school programs, get school tours in. We want groups to come in, maybe bring conversation to the schools or to other organizations where we do a presentation on Bix or the time period or its history, and even Davenport's history in the Quad Cities.
You always think that anybody who lives here knows everything about Bix, so I of course had to look some things up. And you've got a couple milestone years coming up, because August 2021 will be the 90th anniversary of his death, and the 120th anniversary of his birth is 2023, 125th is 2028. So you got some significant milestone dates. I mean, is that important, that you hope that you can actually mark these milestones in his life 190 years later? Yeah,
this decade is a century since Bix, was here. That's all of his recordings happened in the next 10 years. 2024 will be the first century of his first recording in February. And so we hope to take advantage of that. We want people to know that, this is 100 years in the making.
The other thing, as far as the Bix Museum, I hate to bring this up, but I mean, bad memories were last year. I mean, we had a flood that really affected downtown. The Bix Museum, of course, is in the basement of the River Music Experience. You got through that just fine through some amazing work by volunteers, and also some luck on the fact that it didn't flood as badly as one had feared for the RME. I mean, is that something that kind of worries you for the year to come?
Yeah, when they built the museum, they were promised no flooding, and then the levees broke, and what happened was groundwater had gotten too high and just came in from the basement.
Right, it just seeped up.
And so we're hoping to find ways to mitigate that, but we don't think it will happen again. We're hoping. We're also looking to do a bit more with the RME to have a plan in place, because if it does happen or something else happens, there's restaurants on the first floor, there could be a fire, there's tornadoes in the area, things like that. We want to make sure the collection is safe, and we're a bit more prepared because we got really lucky.
I think one of the things that you had also mentioned was the fact that you do want to do the outreach, and I'd assume particularly with children, because when it comes to the Jazz Festival, they always make sure that children are honored or even exposed in many ways to jazz music. Is that so critically important? Because when you're talking about a musician from 100 years ago, and people are listening not to, and the modern music is from 100 minutes ago at best at times, is it important to keep this type of music alive and to keep his memory and his contribution to music alive?
Yeah, I mean, changed music for, the history. Even music we listen to today has influences of him and other jazz musicians influenced by him. And so we think it's really important. His story itself is probably inspirational for students who really want to get into music, but they don't really know what to do. But if they don't know there's a guy from Davenport, of all places, to look up to, then it would be important that we get them, to learn about him, and it might spark their interest. Maybe they don't like jazz, but they're at least interested in music, and that's an important
And he started at such a young age and actually died at such a young age. So your best pitch,
Yeah.
if you want to come visit the Bix Museum, what can you do?
You can visit us. We're at the RME. The 2nd Street entrance is the best way to get to us. There's an elevator, go to the basement, and it's just to your right and through their offices. If we're open 10 to 5 every day except for Saturdays, Sundays. Saturdays, if you want to come in on a Saturday, get in contact with me, and we open specially for that.
And if you think you know everything, you don't.
No.
All right, Nathaniel Kraft, thank you so much.
Thank you.
The new director of the Bix Beiderbecke Museum. WQPT has a commitment to military families in the cities. We call it Embracing the Military. And the Army's Lock and Dam Lounge is where you and your kids can get into a little pre-St. Patrick's Day fun. A family craft night is set for Wednesday from 5 until 7, where you and your kids can make a leprechaun trap. It's open to soldiers, families, retirees, and civilians on the island. On the air, on the radio, on the web, and on your mobile device, thanks for taking some time to join us as we talk about the issues on the cities.
A proud supporter of this program, Riverbend Food Bank's vision is a hunger-free Iowa and Illinois.
Whelan Presley Funeral Home and Crematory has been serving Quad City families since 1889. Whelan Presley Funeral Homes are located in Rock Island, Milan, and Reynolds, and are proud supporters of WQPT.